We have our little countdown thing. It's getting better every week. And magic.
I'm ready. Normally, I'm still sharing.
You did good. Well, I gave us a minute this week instead of 30 seconds.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So they've got this new widget where you can count down, and I've used it about 5 times. And each time it gets a little better, but I still am not perfect with it. So everybody be patient. And right when I figure this part out, they'll come out with something new that I'll have to learn.
But it'll be better and easier. So
that's what I'm hoping. Absolutely. How you doing, Monica Perez?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I promise. Well, I think I'm going to start recording secretly before we come on, like record it offline, and then put together like a 10-minute, just a 30 seconds to 2 minutes before me and you come on, because I think people would really be enchanted
by me trying to fix my hair. I have terrible hair, and the thing is,
you're putting on makeup. You're doing
when I look at the thing, the video with you, it's inverted. So I try to fix my hair and I just mess it up completely because I'm pulling it on the wrong. I don't see. And I'm in my office that has no air conditioning.
I thought the air conditioning stayed on until like an hour.
It's not on right now. I think because they've been literally in LA, they've been in COVID lockdown for like 7 months, since the middle of March.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, but you had air conditioner there a couple of weeks ago.
No, I know, but I think that everyone's just trying not to go bankrupt, and I mean, everything's getting more expensive and less good. And you go to the grocery stores, the shelves are half empty, and the prices are twice as much. You have to buy in my grocery store. It's just the only thing they have is Smithfield, which is hilarious because it's a Chinese company. Like, I don't understand how they're the ones that get through. I don't care about China. I'm not like worried about China, but
sure. How you doing, John Jasper? John Jasper said hi.
Hi, John. Awesome. Put the pressure on.
So wait a minute. Hold on a second.
What time is it, John?
Mm-hmm. Wait a minute. Hold on a second. So I watched the vice presidential debate this past week, which I thought was way better. I thought it was a great debate. But whenever Pence asked her, do you consider China an enemy, a foe, whatever? And she goes, this administration, she never answered the question, but you don't consider China an adversary at all. You think it's kind of manufactured?
Well, if they want a war, a hot war, a cold war, they're going to get it. I mean, Oppenheimer didn't give Russia the bomb because he was a communist. He gave them the bomb because he worked for the military industrial complex. And how do you spend that kind of money if you don't have an enemy? So the fact that China, the 2 CDCs and the World Health Organization, but the 2 CDCs that were present at Event 201, where they foreshadowed or cooked up this entire coronavirus thing that shut down the world. They said it would take 18 months to process through. It would have economic and social cohesion impact for 10 years. The 2 CDCs that sat side by side and talked about what policies to put in place when a pandemic came down of a novel coronavirus were the CDC of China and the CDC of the US. And they're just, whether they might need a hot war as much as we do, they might need a cold war as much as we do. They certainly needed the financial bailout that is being masked by this COVID thing. They needed it just as much. And so I don't know what the powers that be have in store for us, but I am not at all of the belief that China is an enemy. And anybody who says that from a political podium here means it and wants to protect us against them. That's just completely made up, in my opinion.
John Jasper said it's 8 p.m. where he is at. So thank you, John
that's
Jasper.
Not so bad. I don't think he's a big drinker, but if I were you, John, I'd have a cocktail.
That's Monica's answer for everybody. What are you doing right now? You should have a cocktail.
What time is it? Well, I don't recommend that.
Are you having pancakes at 8 o'clock in the morning? You know, there's a cocktail for that. A pancake cocktail.
I always gauge my drinking around London time. So, I mean, it's noon for me, but I feel like it's time for a cocktail.
Of
Sorry.
course it is. Well, and so, okay, back to China. We talked about that a little bit on the presidential debate. And just to say how crazy it was, did you watch the vice presidential
Oh
debate?
my gosh. This is what I was saying on my show. It was like I went over a friend's house to study before a huge exam. I was a guest on the Make Liberty Great Again live stream. It's a
Mhm.
network of podcasters who I really, really like. And we were just chattering the entire time. Nobody could watch the movie because we were chit-chatting. People were imbibing. I mean, if the last one was an S show, we made this one the S show. But it was super, super fun. But I have no recollection of the actual debate.
Of the debate. Yeah. It
Yeah.
went,
Except for the fly, which I still think was an Israeli drone.
of course you do. Well, why wouldn't you? Makes sense.
Well, they can do it. They can make those. Okay.
Yeah, everybody can.
That is true.
There was a guy, and I can't remember. I think it was on CNN, but I can't remember. He's some commentator, and it was after midnight. And I cannot remember his name. He's one of those media. Sometimes he's not one of the main people they ask to come on. And he said, well, flies land on, what they're known for? They're known to be drawn to the Lord of the Flies, the evil, he said, and Satan. He said, flies are drawn hand up. He said that. And
that's probably true, but
the guy there's, flies have landed on people their whole lives. But the commentator was like, as a journalist, he started laughing. I have to ask you, are you saying? He goes, I'm just saying flies are, they're attracted to evil. And I'm like, that's when I hear that, I go,
yeah.
How are both sides, if we believe both sides are being played against us, it seems to me that they're really going after Trump pretty bad.
Did you grow up seeing the Ethiopia ads where they were trying to tell us that there was famine and starvation in Ethiopia, which an Ethiopian dude told me was greatly exaggerated just to get the U.S. to send money there so they could buy off the warlords?
Wasn't it the actress that was on All in the Family, Sally Struthers?
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I remember those little videos growing up, like the commercials, and the kids were always covered in flies to the point where you would see, they would be everywhere. They'd be on their eyes and everything. But when I saw Pence, he was so robotically unaware of the fly. It reminded me of a movie where there's an android and you realize it's an android because the fly lands on its eyeball. And it's like blink. It just starts drinking the fluid out of his eyeball. It's like, oh my gosh, if it lands on his eyeball and he doesn't notice.
Here's my theory. I think he uses so much hairspray and gel that his little legs got stuck, and he's like, I want to go land over there, and I can't.
Right. No, totally. But I'll tell you, if that's what people are talking about, it's so completely beyond your control. You're actually better off.
Yes.
Maybe he planned it.
No, that's exactly what happens when you lose the debate. They start talking. And here's my question to you. Here's my question for you. You're a woman, and there's this great, thing they say about mansplaining. And that was on CNN, all I heard is that Pence was mansplaining things to Kamala Harris, treating her disrespectful. And I thought, it's a debate. You're supposed to explain your opinion. And so when she's explaining stuff to him, that's considered normal. When he's explaining things to her, they use the cop out of mansplaining. Have I offended you? Is that true? In a debate, aren't you supposed to explain your point of view?
I've always thought there was an inherent contradiction in all the Me Too stuff and the equal rights stuff, the feminist stuff. It in the old days, it was like, don't wear a bra, which I thought was a disservice to the women, not anybody else. But don't wear a bra. Don't hold the door for me. Don't speak to me with extra courtesy because that's patronizing. And then if you are treated equally, they say that it's a kind of
being a bully. You're being a bully.
Being a bully, exactly. Being a bully.
And I agree with that. I've actually have friends that I know I was raised to walk on the outside of the sidewalk. And if you're walking through the parking lot, I walk towards where all the traffic is. But I've got friends, I know people that have said, hey, you don't have to do that when we're walking on the sidewalk. And I'm like, I got 52 years, almost 53 years of training. I can't stop that.
No, it's the right thing to do. I wouldn't make a big deal about it. But first of all, you need to absorb all the splashes from the mud and dirt. Totally. And also, you need your sword arm free. Yeah, like that's where these things come from, and they're funny,
my
and I like
drawing
them.
arm.
Yeah, exactly. You need to be
I
able to
draw
throw. Well, I
right-handed.
used to go out with a European guy, so for him, he was a fancy aristocrat from way back when, and
That's why we won the war, because they were doing this and we were
yes,
doing
and we were
this.
going. Yes,
Yeah,
that's a good point.
yeah.
That's a
You
good point.
draw your
Although,
saber, and I'll draw my 9mm. We'll see how that works
yeah,
out
I
for
think
you.
we're kind of mixing up
Yeah,
chronography.
we are. So what? It's called fun. Hey,
Whatever. Yeah, we're having fun. We always have fun.
tell me this. How's podcast been this week? And let's do a mid drop. Well, usually we do it at the beginning or the end, a mid drop. So if people want to find out more about your podcast,
yes.
where do they find it?
So please do come to the Propaganda Report podcast. It's you can get it at Libsyn. You can get at any of your favorite podcasting feeds. You can go to my website, which is thepropreport.com, and you can get 30 minutes of commercial. Well, there's some commercials in it during of news of the day from a perspective of truth, liberty, and justice. But if you don't want commercials and you want 45 minutes plus cocktail parties and early releases, part of a really robust community, we have a very active Patreon community. It's patreon.com/propaganda report. And it's super fun. And I have some merch. You want to buy a cool t-shirt?
Tell people about it.
That is, you can get that at thepropreport.com. Towards the top, you'll see it. It'll leap out at you. But if you want to watch these videos with me and Clint, and me, you can find
Clint
that on my YouTube. No, it's with us. It's not with me.
It's I and Clint where I'm from. It's I and Clint.
No, it's Clint and me because it's us, not we.
I know.
We are on youtube.com/Monica Perez if you missed the live stream.
There you go. Good job. All right. Last debate question for you. Trump has seemingly backed out. We'll see if it ends up being true. Backed out of the debate for this Tuesday because they changed the rules and went to virtual debate online. Do you care one way or the other, or do you agree with it, or do you think he should debate?
I don't care. I think they're very orchestrated and scripted, so it doesn't mean anything to me. I think it's shallow. What would you call it? Like grandstanding, whatever, for them to announce that they were changing the rules basically for a party that only two people were going to and not making sure it was okay with both people. I mean, that's just stupid to make that announcement.
And
it's just rude is what it is.
Well, and Trump's doctor said he's cleared. I mean, in other words, from the time he had his first symptom and tested till now, it's been over 14. It'll be over right at 14 or 15 days. My daughter can go back to school. She was quarantined. So he's had no symptoms. If he tests negative and it's been over 14 days, the CDC and his doctor both said he could go. So they're copping out. Biden's copping out.
It's been 14 days since he's had no symptoms.
No, it's been you've got to be in quarantine from the time you get tested and have your symptom. You've got to be 14 days quarantine. His doctor just came out and said he is free and clear for public stuff today. As of today, he's tested negative, and by CDC standards, he'd be free and clear Monday. By the stuff you should go off their website.
I think their theme is that he lies, right?
Oh, whatever. The doctor can't lie. They're so full of crap. And
their doctor lied. His doctor lied that one time. I don't care, but I'm just saying that's what they say. So you can't trust him.
Then he reached out to Biden's team and said, okay, so if you don't want to do them in the 15th and 22nd, let's do them on the 22nd and 29th, which is next week. And they said no. And then he just said this, and it was just yesterday or today, he came out and said, he asked Biden team, let's do a debate with no presidential debate committee. Let's don't let them in. Let's just have a debate. We don't have to have anybody involved. We'll get a moderator and just do our own debate. I thought that would be awesome. Get Joe Rogan to host it.
Yes.
Or you. So you would be a good presidential debate moderator.
Yeah, I'd have to do some homework. I think you have to do a lot of work to do a good job on that. I wonder, no, I mean, here's the thing is that I think, don't they get the questions in advance now?
I don't think so. Daryl agrees with you. Who doesn't agree with Monica?
Yeah. So
I don't think they do. I don't think they get the questions.
Well, they did. They gave them to Obama. I think they do. I mean, or whatever. Here's what I would think that it is that they just give them a short list of topics and they prepare and they don't deviate from that. And it's very easy what it is, especially if you let the person answer kind of a tangential question instead of the real question, which everybody said about the vice presidential debate. I didn't notice it because I wasn't paying attention.
She never answered a question, in my opinion. All right, so that's all my debate rant. I wanted to get that out of the way. And we're going to keep today's broadcast to 60 minutes or less because there's a chance you may be reusing this video.
I wouldn't mind putting the feed into Patreon, but I'm not sure I'm on enough.
I don't understand. What do you mean you're on enough?
I feel like I'm not. So I had yesterday off. We put up a great interview with Grimerica, which is a fantastic podcast from Canada. Love those guys. And we take every other Friday, Binkley and I take off. And we do an interview instead. We put up an interview. So I've been a little bit out of the loop for news. And it is the one day I actually get to cook for my family. I'm really ashamed of how I've handled my domestic responsibilities these days, but I did make a lovely dinner.
Oh, there it is.
That's your mom. I don't have. Yeah, there's my mom. But that's like I haven't been paying attention to everything. I guess there were a couple of things I paid attention to. One thing is that I think that what they're going to do, I feel like there's going to be a theme coming out of the Trump thing from both the left and the right, where they're going to say, hey, he came out of COVID or his treatment or the steroids or whatever, a different guy. And on the left, they're going to use it for the 25th Amendment thing or to continue the pot shots or to flip the script on Biden is addled and Alzheimer-y. And now they're going to say that Trump is that. But on the right, I think this is what they're going to do. Trump, I've predicted from the minute he was elected, and the first and only thing he said on election day was that he was going to get an infrastructure spending plan through, which is a completely Democrat thing. And that was the only thing he said. I just predicted, but it wouldn't be hard for me to make this prediction anyway, that in his second term, he would have a Democrat Congress and a Democrat Senate, and he would rubber stamp every single thing. I think that's basically what Bush did. So then you get every Democrat thing passed without any resistance whatsoever. And I think that's what you're going to get. I think that was predictable. He signed off on $4 trillion of deficit spending this year. He said, I believe I heard his actual words say, I wanted something bigger than even the Democrats put forward. So he is really hitting the ground super spendy. And I think that Q or whatever, the people who think he is Batman are going to say, oh, they sabotaged him in the hospital. They changed him. They gave him some drugs. And that's why he's spendy guy now. But he's always been spendy guy.
And I'm not going to, the merits of the spending, I think we agree with. But recently, I mean, he rejected what Nancy Pelosi wanted to do. All he wanted to do was send everybody. He said, if she sends me a bill that's $1,200 a person right now, I'll sign it. I don't want all the other crap with it.
Right. But I think on Rush, was it Rush? Was he on Rush yesterday? Or he was on one of these things? He was on one of them yesterday and he said, I want more. Now, maybe he was making some refinements and saying he didn't want all that other crap. And that is what Pelosi is saying. But he was saying he wanted more, a bigger bill or more relief or whatever than the other guy. So I'm just saying it's the same thing as Mitt Romney, where people are just like, trust me, I can outspend Democrats. I mean, that's just, it's definitely in character for him, but it will be described as being out of character for him or whatever his behavior. I really feel like he's just going to show his true colors as just a spendy politician who's on the take in a way in the second term, but it'll be dismissed because of long-term effects of COVID.
He's not a politician. He's an outsider. Okay.
He's not an outsider. His family made every penny. He's rich because he got a lease from the federal government for the Washington, D.C. post office that was illegal for him to hold the day he took office. Why did Nancy Pelosi make him sell that thing that day? Because that, my friend, is payola.
Hey, Biden's corrupt too. Ukraine.
The only reason Biden's even running is because it's the perfect cover for the ultimate in corruption. Both of them have that in common.
Here's what I love to do. I love that. You were all so calm. We were doing great. And I just said it and looked away because I knew that out of the corner of my eye, I was going to see your head start going.
Are you? Yeah, exactly. You need to like get a little wind up doll.
I don't need
And
one.
so
I have you. This isn't going on your Patreon page now. I pissed you off. Hey,
I don't think so.
oh, it's a good one. Why not? People would be entertained by this. I think they would.
I think my listeners expect me to be a little sharper than I am right now.
No, here's what your listeners love every now and then. It's like when you see somebody at work and they always have the hair up, then you see them out and their hair's down. They're like, oh, I see it's another side of her. And I like that. It makes me intrigues us, Monica. I'm just trying to help. Yeah, here's something I'm good at. We're going to go through your tweets now, though.
Okay.
Because we're coming up on 20 minutes, and there's a couple of these that I think are going to take a little longer than normal. So I want to make sure I give us time. The very first one, you have already alluded to it, but Pelosi says commission to remove unfit presidents isn't about Trump. Oh, it's not, is it? She's hedging her bets in case he wins.
They say, right? Exactly. Either way, both of these guys now are old people, and we know that old people are stupid and die. So it's easy to say.
You're being facetious when you say
yes,
that.
Of course. That's what they're saying. Just because they're old, they have a 7 in front of their, at the top of their age. They're like, oh, whatever. Yeah, you're right. Nobody's going to get what I mean by that. But that's what the COVID thing is. It's just killing old people with the ventilators, not even with COVID, which is straight out of the report from Iron Mountain, by the way.
But my point on that is, if Biden wins, we've already seen, you say it's acting. I think he's actually has the onset of dementia. You already see them setting that up. If Trump wins, they already setting that up. So this committee is designed to get what they want one way or the other.
I think Trump is going to come out as having slowed down. Now, Reagan actually had Alzheimer's in the second term, I think. I mean, I believe that there was no lie about him actually having Alzheimer's later in life. But I think that it seems to me nowadays, the propagandists, the machination controllers, they just pick up themes that have already been carved into our minds, like a Nixon type Watergate scandal or the Alzheimer president. I feel like no matter who wins, that's what we're going to feel like we have this term, and that's going to open the door for other stuff. Boy, it would be something if Pence became the president. I mean, that would be even more divisive, in my opinion.
I mean, I understand. I'm asking a question from 100%. This is where I don't mind being saying I'm pure ignorance. How can you put together a committee that has the jurisdiction over I don't understand how they're going to make that happen with the 25th. I don't understand that. I don't think you can just put a committee that can all of a sudden enact the 25th Amendment or start.
I think the 25th Amendment. I think the 25th Amendment is like my little.
I do.
The 25th Amendment that's an advantage of being in my office.
Your what? Your what?
My office. So the 25th Amendment, I believe, it requires an act of Congress. So I think she's within her rights to do that. Maybe I'm missing something.
I thought it was the cabinet. Doesn't his cabinet have to vote? I don't know.
I'll tell you a second. This is from a long time ago. I actually have the 25th Amendment highlighted myself from years ago because I figured this was coming. But here's the one that's really messed up. I was looking into it, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There have been 8 times that Congress has established or reestablished the number of Supreme Court justices. And I don't know if there's any mechanism laid out in here of how. Well, there must be. Anyway, whenever the vice president and a majority of either the principal officers of the executive departments or of such other body as Congress may by law provide, transmit to the president pro tempore of the Senate and the Speaker of the House their written declaration that the president is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office, the vice president shall immediately assume the powers and duties of the office as acting president. So the vice president plus a majority of either the cabinet or another body that Congress provides. I mean, boy,
that's what they're trying to provide, I guess.
That's
the other
pretty
body.
Broad a reading, given that this was passed after JFK was killed. So this was well within the time frame.
But the way you read that, let's say, for instance, the House and the Senate both become, under Democrats. Does the vice president still have to sign off on that, or is a majority override? I mean, the vice president.
What's the question?
The vice president.
He always has to sign off on it.
Whether there's a majority in the House and the Senate or anything, right? He still has to sign off on it.
Whenever the vice president and this or that transmits to the president.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure there wasn't a way they could get around.
I think there's no chance that the vice president, but it's so easy to make it seem like he's self-interested. Didn't George H.W. Bush, wasn't it a friend of his family's who shot Reagan? Well, I shouldn't say, isn't it? It was. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I know. Weird, right?
You're just, see, that's why I like you. You teach me something every week.
Yeah. And the proof is in the pudding, because that guy lives with his mom now. Can you imagine shooting a president and actually ushering in the whole Brady Law stuff and everything like that, kind of a transformative act of nearly like regicide, and that guy's not even in jail anymore?
All right, one day ago, see, we're going through your tweets. That's what we do here when we get together for your Patreon visitors.
What do you care, Clint? You're not.
I don't know. Just trying to help you.
They know you.
Deadline Detroit. The Whitmer plot shows the danger of private militias, and national security expert says this is the one I thought we might spend a little time on. Militias. And real quick, did you see the video of the guy that they said was kind of the one that's responsible for this? Where someone
showed me it,
he doesn't like Trump. If you watch the video, he's talking about Trump is not your friend. He says some of the same stuff. Trump is not your friend. He's got the big anarchist thing that you see on the T-shirts of Antifa a lot of times. The anarchist symbol behind him.
Gold? Or is it red?
Red.
Okay.
Well, and my issue with that is he's talking literally how police are not your friends and Trump is not your friend. And yet the media comes out and said it's Trump's rhetoric. And that's why when I see that, either they're really good at this game or they're against Trump, or, I mean, and you say that they're both parties are part of the same team, because it looks like but they're running right after Trump on stuff like that. And I'm thinking, when Bernie's fans shot up the congressional softball game, that wasn't Bernie's fault. When Rand Paul got attacked, it wasn't it's not people's fault. There's crazy people in the world.
But what's your point?
My point is that instead of blaming people for this, hold people accountable. It happens all the time. It's our society the last 5 years. If Trump says something and far extremists pick up on it and go act, then it's the far extremists and on both parties that are the crazy ones. I don't blame Obama for the
right, but they're saying that these guys set the tone for the country. That's their argument. But they do it. I mean, the whole thing with Trump is that he's setting into motion this pendulum swinging, this dialectic, this back and forth that won't shake out in favor of liberty or restoring the Second Amendment. It's in its entirety, which includes militias. It's more, people yell at me for saying it's more about militias. Militias are the things that you need to have a free state. We don't have militias. We don't have free states. There's no chance of states' rights after that, once the militias are gone. But I knew this was going to be an issue because people have absolutely been harping constantly on the fact that Trump did not say that he denounced white supremacists when Chris Wallace asked him this question. And the first thing I said over and over again, he asked him to denounce white supremacists and militias. And if you denounce militias, you're denouncing the Constitution. I mean, the Constitution, it invalidates, it makes the Constitution impossible even to assert some protection from at the state level. It is essential for a free state.
I heard him ask about the Proud Boys and I heard him ask about the white supremacists. I did not hear the militia part of it.
It was in the sentence. He said, please denounce the white supremacists and militias.
I didn't hear that. That's amazing. I didn't hear that.
That's what he said. And I noticed it. It was one of the few things I actually heard in the debate. But the Second Amendment could possibly be the shortest amendment. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. People say, well, you can bear arms without a militia. I'm like, yes, I'm not, don't make me denounce a militia because I'm in favor of gun rights. I'm in favor of gun rights, but the militia is the thing that is absolutely critical for a free state. You have your own army They didn't want the federal government to have an army. And that's another thing I hate is they call him the commander-in-chief. He's only commander-in-chief if he's called into actual service. He is not, this is not a military state. So anyway, I feel like they know that militias are the problem, so they make them seem racist. And maybe they make them racist. Maybe they plant people in them. They've been infiltrating militia movements for the longest time. And then you just want to stay away from it.
So, and if I'm going to make an assumption here, when you see what we call the left side of the media, most of the media blaming Trump for what the plot and using militias, right? They say, look, those extremist militia love Trump. In reality, they denounce Trump. But when you see all that, that's a distraction to you. The real purpose of it is now everybody's talking about it and trying to go after militias. Am I correct? The real fight is they're saying, look over here, but we just need to take the rights of militias away.
Yes, and they associate it with Trump and white supremacists. They put it in the basket of deplorables. The basket of deplorables is there. Trump just puts people in it, and eventually they'll all get scapegoated away. It'll be a time, he'll be Hitler. They're going to make Trump Hitler and everything that Hitler had to do with. You know, Hitler and Mussolini and stuff, they liked autarky. They wanted a coin of the realm. They wanted things that weren't 100% all like a poll tax. I think a poll tax is good. I don't think it's racist. So, but you can't have it because it can be used in a racist way. But
But everything can be used in a racist way.
The more power you give the government, the more it can use it against different groups. That's what power is for. That's why, so they're just trying to make it all seem like Trump/Hitler, everything that he owns will be purged from our world when he's gone.
See, and the issue I have with it is, and it's not an issue, it's just a reality that frustrates me a little bit. Now, people, and this has been happening for a long time. I used to have friends that were in 20-something years ago when I first got into radio. I worked with two people in the radio world. They were part of the local militia. They had training, they did stuff, and they were labeled racist. I mean, just immediately. And they weren't. No, I knew them. I worked with them. Now, one of them I knew better than the other one, so the other one might have, but I knew one of them pretty well. And now, if you get involved, they have put such a stain on it because that now everybody, all good people go, I'm not going to be part of that.
The Oath Keepers were firemen and soldiers. I mean, soldiers, and police. These are very diverse groups of people. They have every kind of diversity in those
Well,
groups.
Even the Proud Boys, I don't know anything about.
They said that was originally made up. The Proud Boys was originally a made up thing, that it was like the monkeys, Oh. So why even is militia supposed to be racist? Because it's for states' rights, and states' rights supported slavery?
Maybe it's when they first started, maybe it goes back further. And I don't know, this is just me talking. Maybe there were racist groups when the KKK started going out. Maybe militias were picked up and some of them were infiltrated. Like you said, I don't have a clue.
Because the militias were there, obviously, in the founding of the Constitution was clearly every state had a militia.
But I think too, though, just because something started one way doesn't mean it's that way now. And it doesn't mean it started that way, the same way.
If you're going to say the foundation of this country, obviously, it had tolerated extreme racism to the point where there was slavery based on race. I mean, it doesn't get worse than that, except for absolute genocide.
Right.
So that is true. But does that mean that absolutely everything in this document was for that purpose? Maybe. It is quite possible that the whole colonizing thing, the Constitution, the whole big, the Enlightenment, that everything came down to the same way they used the vote and democracy just to get the people, as they were maturing or becoming more independent or richer or technologically advanced, to continue to think that the governments were for and by them, and that even back then they knew that was a lie, but it's what they had to tell you. It's what they tell communist revolutions too. But it's my opinion that all states are slave states. Like, I actually think that the origin of these states was to take to steal, to coerce, to manipulate the people into
But you're saying
working
slave state
harder.
not based off race. You're saying slave state
Oh,
based off
yeah.
we want your
No,
money
not
or
race.
both.
No,
Yeah.
no. The
Yeah.
word slave is Slav. Well, then it was race. But yes, okay, so you could say race as an ethnicity or tribe or whatever, or your own people. Like tax slavery is like that. So you could go back in time, 10,000 years, whatever, and see the civilized state go and kidnap people just all the way through the 18th century, I'm sure, but kidnap people from another tribe and use them as the labor
Yeah.
for harvesting your crops or whatever. Or you can blow up their village and the only place they can get food is there, like we do now. Or you can put them in jail if they don't give half of their labor to you in tax money. You know, it's all that's I believe I have come to the conclusion that the state exists to enslave.
Well, and that kind of goes back to my point that we've talked about several times. I think when you leave people alone, the state is a natural evolution. Everybody, it's eventually going to get there.
I
And I
totally
think,
disagree with that. Well,
I know.
I should say
You
only
just told me if you
reason
go back 10,000 years, it happens. It's always
it was
happening.
established
Yeah.
there was an element. I don't know. Like it gets to a deeper kind of psychology, and perhaps now that there's perfect propaganda, perfect surveillance, perfect censorship, or we're on the verge of that, it is possible that you can't that we can't escape it. But I do
Yeah, I don't
not.
think we can.
It's natural. It is probably natural for some people, or all people put in some positions, to want to dominate others in a way that is morally wrong or against my rights. Is it natural for us to want to be dominated that way? That's a
No.
little bit more of a stretch.
I'm
And
just
that
saying it's natural for people like that to exist and to start exerting their will on it. And even if you alienate yourself from them, if they interact with you, that becomes your reality. I have to deal with that person over there.
Yes, where we
Yeah.
disagree is I say that those people over there are creating and imposing a state on us under the name of protecting you from the other guy over there. That it's not we get
Right.
together and form a state to protect ourselves from statists, to protect ourselves from power hungry central controllers. No, we are fooled into believing in a state, whether at its inception or at its transformation as it's going through now. It's always just this idea that the state is there for you, and it never has been and never will be. And you can, whatever mechanisms you use to enslave people, from tribalism to taxation, it is the single greatest feature of the state. Ben Franklin, death and taxes. I mean, he was making it clear, or planting the idea that you can't escape it. But I think maybe you can.
You know what?
I'm mad at him.
I don't think you can. But do you know what they use to entrap us? You know what they use, don't you? Propaganda.
Fear.
Propaganda.
Yes.
You ought to do a podcast about propaganda.
Oh,
Monica.
Stop. It's fiscal and physical insecurity. That's how they get the left and the right. Fiscal and physical insecurity.
2 days ago on your Twitter account, everybody go check out Monica Perez on Twitter. You were so right at Freedom Act Radio, sexualizing the vote. Okay.
Binkley just keeps bringing us like the booty vote and the naked vote. He said there's just all these ads for voting. Maybe it's Atlanta specific, but where people are strippers for the vote. And it's just.
No, they have celebrities now. They have a celebrity commercial. Yeah, they're completely naked.
I think that was you see full frontal nudity in the TV commercial?
No, I think they got their hands strategically placed, and they're saying
why? Why do that? That's just so. And here's the thing. Let's get real. What is the point? Who could defend a vote that clearly aims to get people not really fully confident in in accepting that responsibility? to pressure the least inclined to vote constantly, to pressure them with sexual images. It's just insane. It's like when I was in Peru, it was like, vote for the pencil. I've told you that story, right?
Uh-huh.
They were so ignorant, so illiterate that they couldn't even write words on the ballot. And so your ads, your billboards would be a tree, a pencil. And we were like, the pencil has to win every time, because you go in, you can't read, you got a pencil in your hand, and one of the boxes has a pencil next to it. So of course you're going to vote for the pencil. But the point is, who justifies that vote? Who justifies voting when it comes down to that? What is the inherent justice in that?
Well, and that's what I feel like is going on with social media. And we've talked a little bit about this in the past. I don't want everybody, this is going to sound bad, I want everybody to take their obligation, I think, their freedom, their right to vote. I want them to take it seriously, but I don't want everybody to vote based off some of the conversations I've had with people. They don't care. They don't know anything about the topics. They don't know anything. They just know they're told to vote this way, and they go vote that way.
Here's the big problem with the vote right now is people no longer, our government no longer respects the Constitution. I mean, not that it ever did, but right now it's very clear that the Constitution does not apply. We don't have militias, first of all. And all of so many laws are totally unconstitutional, from Roe versus Wade to Obamacare. And we still have those laws. So why do we have laws that are totally unconstitutional? Because we've devolved into a democracy or a representative democracy. But regardless, we no longer adhere to the foundational law, and we use the validation of the elected position as an excuse for that. So once you have done away with foundational principles and rights and all that, and the government still has the power to kill and steal, and you get a bunch of people voting who do not have skin in the game, who are net recipients of tax dollars. So people who get more money out of the government than they give, those people are now empowered to legitimately rob you at the point of a gun for no reason more than they want your money. That's where we are right now. So I would say, at least say, if you're a net recipient, or if they have a transfer of wealth, then you cannot have universal suffrage. I mean, it's a recipe for violence.
Well, and you're never going to vote it out either. You're never going to vote.
Right.
You're never, once I'm getting all my goodies from you,
right,
and you come along and say, hey, listen, I've got another alternative. Now, you're not going to get your goodies anymore. Nobody's going to vote for that. Nobody's going to say, take my crap away. Hey, by the way, you're on social media all the time. Have you seen the pressure to vote we've been talking about? Do you see all the ads? And they're everywhere.
Binkley's been telling me about that.
Look at this one. Can you see it?
Unacceptable.
If voting, if social media were a man walking into the thing, are you registered to vote? That's what I feel about social media right now, about registering.
My daughter is registered to vote, and she's 16.
We've talked about this before.
They told her she went to get her permit. I just found it. They told her to register to vote, and then it says on the thing, you cannot vote until you're 18. But I'm going to see if she can vote.
You told me that there was in California that people that were illegal that got pressured to register to vote.
Yes, at the DMV.
Yeah.
At the DMV. I mean, this is a felony.
Hey, what's going on real quick? I got to go through your tweets because we got about 15 minutes left and we got about 5 tweets left. What's going on with California? I keep seeing people I know post bills that are getting proposed that are supposed to be normalizing younger age sex for same sex. Do you know what's going on with all these bills?
I didn't hear that one, but a lot of stuff is on the ballot, like
Wiener, his last name, whatever his last name is out there.
No.
Yeah.
Who?
The guy in charge of California. What's his last name?
Newsom?
Scott?
Gavin Newsom?
No. Hold on a second. I'll look it up.
There's Adam Schiff. I think I'm in his district.
No.
I think I am.
No, you might be. I'm just saying. Senator Scott Wiener. Yeah. Senator Scott Wiener, member of the California State Senate.
Oh, mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's a state senator, and he's out of San Francisco. But I don't know anything about it. I just thought you might know because you're in California. But if you don't know, we won't stay on.
No, I know he's Newsom is up to, he's just ridiculous. He's trying to chase people out, and like on the news constantly, they're talking about everybody leaving, going to Texas. I don't know if people saw, I saw what was happening immediately. They want to chase people out of LA to Texas. They could overwhelm the vote without taking away the blueness of California. They're going to, and that's why I was going to, this was going to be a stepping stone for me to get to Texas. I'm not going now unless I have to.
Why aren't you going now? I mean, it's going to be,
because it's going to be LA.
No, it won't.
I want to move to Wyoming. Well, that's shady territory. I'm going to go to Montana.
Come to Chattanooga, Tennessee. We're God's country here. Come on up. You got mountains. You can get lost up in the mountains here.
It's too expensive. Montana's pretty cheap.
Chattanooga is way less expensive than Montana or California or Texas.
Less expensive than Montana?
It depends on where you go. I bet so.
I was going to go to the middle of nowhere.
Maybe not. Hey, let's do this. Let's go back to your Twitter account. 23,000 absentee ballots were rejected in Wisconsin in April's primary. That's more than Trump won the state by. So what was your take on that?
Well, it just demonstrates that the mail-in vote will be the difference maker. And it is absolutely beyond irresponsible, reckless, devious, malicious for any state to make the deadline for a mail-in postmark after election day. And that is the case. I mean, this is going to be, it's intentional. It's truly a pathocracy. The pathocracy is when a government works against the people instead of for the people. So you could say every government's a pathocracy, but truly this is a pathocracy where they are actually trying to cause unrest.
Well, and I've said it before, it's not, mail-in voting is not absentee voting. Absentee voting is when you ask for a ballot to be sent to your house. Mail-in voting is where they just mail out masses to.
All right, but so what? What if it were perfect?
Well,
what if all of those ballots were in paper?
Nothing's going to be perfect.
Okay, but let's just say
see headlines with you see people throwing ballots away or get lost.
Okay, but what if you, because there are places where they do it at least as well as any other method. Plus, it's a paper thing that can be audited. And if you just set the deadline too earlier, what would be? I mean, there's nothing wrong with it in theory, right? If the absentee ballot is theoretically okay, then a mail-in ballot could be a subset of it.
But the absentee ballot has a process in place, and we could get there eventually.
So
but when they send out these mail-out ballots right now, they're based off the the voter registrations, which are inaccurate. There's dead people, there's cats, there's people that are illegal. People get them. So not only are you sending it to people who didn't ask for it, you're sending it to people who may be wrong, and you're giving them the opportunity to mail it in after the election. It's chaos.
That's the big problem to me. And I would just say that there's Republicans and Democrats have both been found, Republicans possibly more than Democrats, fiddling around with the votes for sure.
You stop right now, young lady.
The Diebold voting machines in Ohio. I mean, that was terrible in 2004. And actually in 2000, I don't know, man. I was a true believer in the hanging Chad, but now I'm not so sure. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. All I'm saying is both sides can cheat, and both sides are going to want the methods that favor their side. And so if you want to, I think I really am. I do believe that my guy at Voter GA, Garland Favorito, he says, look, mail-in voting, if you were to do it correctly, which takes a long time to get all the pieces in place, it's superior to what we have in Georgia, because Georgia, he fought it tooth and nail, and it is terrible. It is so corrupt. Oh my goodness, I can't get into it. But if you had the mail-in votes, you could audit them perfectly. They're paper ballots. It would be great.
I just don't understand the difficulty in having an ID, showing up to vote. You're Clint. I check you off. Go vote. There it is. You got a paper ballot. They got paper ballots when you go vote.
Yeah, I have no problem with that, but you're staying home voluntarily because you're afraid of the Rona. So
I'm going to vote, though. I'm going to put a mask on and go vote.
Are you going to impose that on other people? You wouldn't like it if they imposed it on you. I mean, I'm just telling you what their arguments is. I agree with 100%. I mean, I think
here's where you lose that argument. You ready? Those same people, if it's okay to go protest, then it's okay to go vote. If you still go to Walmart and Home Depot.
I gotcha. I know there are arguments, but that's why this kind of thing is stupid to me, because
I agree it's that much stupid.
Yeah, because you just have people arguing their side to get what they want, even though there are counter arguments. But I'll tell you, Dean, my tweep at Where Did Dean Go?
You're who?
Tweep. Someone I interact with on Twitter.
I'm not that hip. Sorry, I tweet.
I'm not that hip either, but I do
It
spend a lot
sounded
of time on Twitter.
damn good.
Dean is a primo tweep, so I just invented that, but he is my main tweep. He tweeted at me a patent for mail-in voting that was filed in February 2020 by the federal government. So they'd been cooking this up long before the Rona.
What do you mean patent? Like a machine?
It was a patent of maybe it was a machine or a process or something, but there was some. I'd have to refresh my memory. I wasn't prepared for that, but it was just clear that in February 2020 they were preparing for nationwide mail-in voting in the presidential election. So,
all right, let's hit a few of these last ones quick. We're going to keep it it's shorter today. I see you out of the corner of my eye. You ready? McCloskey's indicted on gun charges.
Yes.
What have we come to? I cannot stand in my front yard.
Those pictures look so totally staged to me. So I haven't really studied the story. So why don't you tell me about it?
Oh, I don't know. I'm just saying. All I know is this stems from the group of protesters again that broke through a private gate, went into a community that was. It says no trespassing, and this also comes, if you remember, this was night after night after night in multiple cities of protesting turning very violent. Things were getting set on fire. Windows were getting broke. Well, here comes this group of people break through the iron gate, and now they're starting to get on the sidewalks and in yards and go into this private neighborhood. That family, if I'm not mistaken, they got kids there and everything. They got their guns, came out on their front porch and their yard, and were telling them to move on and stay away from their house. I don't.
Yeah, this is what I was saying about Portland. I was saying people were like, well, what are they supposed to do? They were justifying the feds going in, justifying militias being active in Kenosha or whatever. And I said, look, what you need to do, and this is what, if you're going to spend your time or effort doing something, what you want to do is make sure that this is why I don't like the public roads too, but make sure that on your property, you can put at the four corners of it, you can stand there and keep people off with your own weapons. And if you can't, you've got a problem with local laws, and you need to fight them.
Yeah.
And you fight those laws. If you have to abandon ship and go someplace else, okay, but that's what's happening in Texas. That's why they're pulling one of the many reasons they're pulling all the people in LA into Texas. They will defeat their gun laws. The Texans, even Democrats in Texas, love their guns. So, I mean, maybe that could be the number one purpose of the diaspora.
All right, this is going to be one that we've got two more after this, but I'm anxious to hear your take on it because I wrote it down. The Pope has come out against private property rights. I know we talked a little bit about it last week. Capitalism is bad, and if I'm not mistaken, listen to this phrase real quick. As an outgrowth, this is an article out of CBS News. As an outgrowth of that, Francis rejected the concept of an absolute right to property for individuals, stressing instead the social purpose and common good that must come from the sharing the Earth's resources.
He just makes me sick.
Well, that was one of many quotes that I read going, that's one world government. That is the...
They've promoted that before. There was a Vatican Council on Peace and Justice, I think, which is, code for communism, that called for a world government. That was even before his time. And for me, also, if you read further into that, it echoes a lot of the Great Reset stuff. He's like, if you think that we can just fix what we have, and he's like, no, we can't, which is total Great Reset stuff. And my mother's big problem with that kind of thing. My mother's really devout Catholic. I'm a Catholic practitioner, and I do what I'm supposed to do, and I'm hoping that things are the way that on the spiritual level that it's presented there, and I agree with the ethical rules and everything. But my mother is just absolutely super devout Catholic, and her complaint of him was always that he does not focus on the spiritual realm. And that's all you really want, is for him to focus on the spiritual realm. He shouldn't be talking about the environment. He shouldn't be talking about youth unemployment. He shouldn't be talking about any of it. And if he is coming out and saying that human beings cannot own land, which goes way back to UN Habitat 1, that is a radical break from the Catholic past. And I have found that also calling for government redistribution of wealth, which is a call to violence and theft, a really serious violation of the Ten Commandments. He's the first pope I've ever seen actually do that.
My question is one that I'm going to go down this road kind of far. Ready for this one? Is it possible down the road that the Pope actually becomes a, not just in theory, a political figure, but a political figure? In other words, is it possible that you see that the Vatican is used to usher in the one world? They can encompass all. Is it possible for him to become a political figure?
Well, I guess what it would be is something I've been talking about lately, started to come together for me, is a long time ago, I tried to figure out what's the 21st century dialectic. The 20th century dialectic was, I guess, capitalism versus communism, or communism versus fascism, however you want to look at it, what the wars were fought and all that. And then what you ended up with was social democracy / a kind of fascism the world over. Everybody speaks English. You had this synthesis. And the 21st century one, I was like, what could it be? Because this focus on Islam, the clash of civilization, stuff like that, like the only thing I can think of is they're trying to come up with a universal religion. The only synthesis possible would be a kind of enforced morality, either a secular morality or a like vaguely God-based religion, something like that. And then I saw some really controversial video stuff around Sandy Hook talking about this. Thank you so much for the people who gave me the answer to this. I think Dustin was one of them. Baha'i faith, Bahai. There's an element of that in Newtown, Connecticut, and I think the headquarters are in Tel Aviv. And it's like I think the Catholics call it ecumenicalism, but ecumenicalism about basically uniting the world's religions. Historically, for Catholics, it's supposed to be that everybody becomes Catholic, because Catholics think the Catholic teaching is technically that Catholicism is Christ's church and Christ came to save us, and you have to be Catholic to be saved, right? All right, that's what they say. So true ecumenicalism for any Catholic should be that everyone becomes Catholic, and the popes, at least this pope anyway, I don't think he really adheres to that. So what you could have is this pope recognizing the Baha'i, for example. And I know that he's participated when I've been to confession, really long confession. It's called like long form confession. Both times they asked me if I ever participated in a religious ceremony that was not Catholic and believed it to be valid. That's a sin. I think it's a mortal sin. I've seen pictures of him engaging in at least Jewish ceremonies. Maybe he does others too. I don't know, but validating the ceremonies of another religion. I'm not quibbling with him about that, but it is completely against the rules to do that. And if he's willing to cross that line, then maybe he would go further. And I think people in Israel think that the Pope is too influential there, so they won't like it either. Well, but maybe he recognizes that, and then you have that world religion, that synthetic syncretism or whatever they call it, and he is that universal religious figure. I mean, I doubt it, because he seems a bit polarizing, because people hate Catholics, a lot of them.
But if he slowly over the years changes, if he starts this dialogue, because you have the secular and the religious that kind of butt heads a little bit, and you try to find common ground. But if he's going to start echoing more the message of the secular, and if you, like you believe, it's a plan, a long-term plan, and over the next 10, 20 years, you start to see where there's really not that much difference in them. And all of a sudden, you actually have people who aren't religious going, hey, that's right. I'm glad they finally came around to the way we see things.
He could be the last pope. I mean, that is an idea. The last pope would not be legitimately elected, and I don't think he was. So, I mean, it is shocking. I never thought I'd see the day where the church would obey the government's rule to deny people the sacraments that are required to save you from hell. Like, that is crazy to me. I mean, I'm not parroting that. It's a bummer for me, because I don't know how, I can't really explain it, but I feel like I get spiritual sustenance from the Mass. I really do. And communion particularly. So by robbing me of that, maybe they realize it has real power. and they're keeping us from it. They are certainly real power in the social element of it. For a guy who talks about a social good, shutting down the mass is not, it does not serve that end.
We're at 60 minutes. We're at 60 minutes. We're going to wrap it up. You got to tell me. We got to finish. We finished at your last tweet. It's our last topic. I will say, well, no, I won't. I'll bring that up next week. They just did a really big poll where 56% of the people think they're doing better than they were 4 years ago. That's a good thing.
Now?
Yeah. I'll bring that report up. Yeah, I know.
I would love to see the actual questions in that poll.
I'll send you the link.
I mean, does someone getting a UBI at $15 an hour?
I don't know. Wow. I don't know. It's the same poll that they bring out right before elections every year. They have a presidential election.
This is the problem with democracy. People can vote your money away and feel good about it. It's effed up.
Hey, Monica, how do people find out more about you? Where can they find more of you in Binkley?
You can always tweet at me at Monica Perez Show. You can find these videos on youtube.com/Monica Perez. And you can find all of the work I do with Binkley, Propaganda Report, on any podcasting feed or thepropreport.com. And if you want the super duper duper fun stuff, what bang for the buck? I must say, I don't think anybody doesn't think we are the most bang for the buck. Patreon.com/Propaganda Report.
I encourage everybody to get a coffee mug.
I love the coffee mug. I'm out of the original. That was for the hardcore patron saints. How about you, Clint? How can people find you?
Oh, just go to Apple or podcast platforms and look up During the Break podcast, or marketingmixradio.com, or dayfirepodcast.com, where we talk about adventures in the great outdoors. I too have a Patreon page, but I have this many. I only have this many. You have.
I do have a lot because we offer a lot of value.
I'm just trying to make a living. You're over there adding value, and I'm just trying to take people for their money.
We're doing what we can.
Okay. All right, Monica Perez, thank you.
Thank you so much. Until next week, Clint. By the way, if people want, I have doing a live stream in 1 hour on youtube.com/Monica Perez with Melody Krell. You're going to like it, Clint.
Today?
She is down the rabbit hole, but I think she thinks Trump is Batman. I don't know. I got it.
And who is? I'm going to look her up now. And that's an hour.
Yeah, she's an actress. She's had film credits, but she's hitting hard. What's really going on? Who's pulling the strings? I'm really curious. I met her on the Union of the Unwanted, which is a bunch of podcasters in fear of being deplatformed. So we formed a network and we do videos every other week, and it's really fun. We meet really.
We're going to end it with this. Tell everybody where to go find that conversation, because I'm going to tune in too.
Okay, 5:00 p.m. Eastern, 2:00 p.m. Pacific today, which is Saturday. But whenever you're listening to this, it's going to be on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Monica Perez. It's the Melody Krell interview.
Thank you, Monica Perez.
Later.
Bye, everybody. Thank y'all.